New Yorkers are fleeing the city. With the recent Democratic primary win of Zoran Mamdani, a self-described Democratic socialist, New Yorkers are freaking out. And Florida is just going, come on down and bring all your money with you. But I'm gonna share with you a place New Yorkers aren't even thinking about. That's not just gonna save them state income tax, it's gonna save them all of their taxes. And on top of it, you'll get better weather, an incredible culture, and a lifestyle not enough people know anything about. And no, it's not Puerto Rico, it's not Costa Rica, it's not Mexico, it's the Dominican Republic. And in this video, I'm gonna give you at least 5 different reasons why escaping New York to the DR is gonna be way better for you than any other place in the world. But I'm not gonna do it the way you think I am. Look, I'm a native New Yorker, grew up on Long Island, moved upstate when I was a kid, and I really honestly sat there thinking about this, like, what would my uncles, my cousins, the people that I know on the island, what would they ask me if I said to them, no, not Florida, go to DR instead? And I thought, who would be the guy? Uncle Bobby, Uncle Tommy, got a big Italian family on the island. But I said instead, like, I don't need to just take one of their perspectives, let me combine all of them into this fake uncle character I'm calling Uncle Tony from Queens. Hey! So in this video, I'm gonna summon Uncle Tony from Queens, and get his questions as to what exactly he'd want to know if I said to him, dude, or uncle, go to DR instead of Florida. Oh, but wait, there's more. State of the art, I'm gonna give you the 3 absolute truths that you need to know whether you're moving from New York or anywhere down to the Dominican Republic. These aren't what you expect, but they're extremely powerful.
So New York, let's get into it, let's go, hey!
So much news has come out after Mamdani won the Democratic primary. And right after that, there's a guy named Ryan Serhant. He's a famous realtor. I've actually had him on my podcast. You can see that image right here, or video, whatever Dan, my editor, decides to put in. And he announced almost immediately that there were multiple real estate transactions canceled the moment Mamdani won the Democratic primary. It's likely that he wins the mayoral race just because it's a Democratic city, and the other candidates don't seem to inspire a ton of confidence, at least not yet. And look, I get it. What he's promising and what he's talking about for many people goes a little bit too far. In fact, if you even look at the voting, not that this is a New York breakdown of the election thing, but the people who voted him in overwhelmingly were mostly higher income white people and Asians. Andrew Cuomo won more of the black vote, the Hispanic vote, and even the low income vote across all different demographics, black, white, Hispanic, you name it. Just by the studies, things like defunding the police, things like public grocery stores, those aren't popular with the working class in the city. They're popular with the elites, and apparently the Asians. I don't know why. But even amongst the elites, those with means that can leave the city are really trying to at this point. Again, just reporting on the news, that's not my inside take or anything like that. So the New Yorker's natural response,
I'm gonna move to Florida.
It's not Florida for a New Yorker, nor is it orange juice. It's
Florida orange juice. Come on.
I didn't notice that till I moved to upstate New York, where they use the floor, and yeah. And Florida's great. Go there if you want to. However, I think once you hear Uncle Tony's questions, you're gonna realize why the Dominican Republic may be a better play for all of my New York friends. By the way, if you're new to the channel, you're in New York and going,
who is this guy talking about our city like the other guy?
This is gonna be fun. My name's Jamie Gruber. I quit a big-time corporate gig making $400,000 or $500,000 a year back in 2021, and a year later moved with my family down to the Dominican Republic for what was supposed to be 1 year, but we just never left. And we've met so many other people there that did the exact same thing. And we've carved out a nice life down there. Now I say down there because right now I'm sitting in my house in Michigan. It's mid-July 2025. We're back here for 3 weeks because we are selling this house. Now, if you follow me, you would see me normally out in the Dominican Republic showing the beauty of it. But since I can't do that, I'm in my office here in Michigan. Instead, we'll throw up some B-roll here. This is me in Jarabacoa. Isn't that nice? Look how happy I am. I have no idea what Dan, the editor, is throwing up here, but it's great, right? Here's me walking around Punta Cana. Yeah, just living the life. And then I was up in Sosua. This was great. I even bumped into this guy in Sosua, which was cool. He recognized me from YouTube. I went out with my guy Jay in Santo Domingo. That's right here. You can see that. Just see how much I can challenge Dan here. Oh, this is me in Cabarete. There I am. See that? Also, I got this new camera that moves with me if I want it to, and it's kind of creeped me out, but see if I can dig it. No, it stays with me. So that's gonna be a little weird, but if you've been watching me for a while, this might be a little bit more of a motion picture than you've had in the past. Anyway, what's this video about? Oh, yeah.
New Yorkers, get the hell out of the city. What are we doing over here?
All right, so imagine I walk up to Uncle Tony from Queens, my uncle, hey, oh. And he says to me,
Hey, look, kid, I'm getting out of this place here. They elected this socialist, communist guy. Oh, you out of your freaking mind. This city has gone bananas.
the bananas, I wasn't sure what word I was gonna use. So that's why that sounded weird. And he'd say to me,
That's it, kid. I'm going to Florida. Florida, here I come. To hell with the city. I'm done with this place.
I'd say, Uncle Tony, listen, man, Florida's great. You're gonna cut out your state income taxes. But what if you were to move instead to an island in the Caribbean where the weather's great all year round, where the people are friendly and kind, where it's a growing and becoming a more and more developed place every single day? And Uncle Tony, what if you could save all your taxes potentially instead of just your state income tax? Uncle Tony might say,
All right, kid, tell me a little bit about this place.
so I'd share with Uncle Tony that it's called the Dominican Republic, and he'd be like,
Dominican Republic, are you kidding me? I'm gonna go down there, play some baseball? What's the matter with you? Sammy Sosa, he was black, now he's white. I mean, well, this is kind of a messed up society, no?
I don't know, this is just coming out of my head. Sorry, guys. This is like therapeutic for me. Like, this literally is what my father and all my uncles sound like, and I'm just able to like bring it all up and spit it on you. It's so much fun. You know what I remember most about all my uncles and cousins and everything is like everyone down in the city and Long Island, they love to give directions and then argue with each other about which direction is best. I'll never forget being like in my 20s and visiting and saying, no, I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna go check this place out. And one of them would pop out.
All right, listen to me.
Always I get listen to me, even though I'm listening to you. My father does that to me. Listen to me. I'm like, I'm listening to you. I'm right here.
All right, take the 205 to the 695, cut across to 422, and then take that LIE over here to this place and you'll be there, all right?
None of those roads are real, but except LIE. I'm just coming up with stuff here. But then someone would go,
What are you kidding? You're gonna send them into traffic nightmare, oh! Take the 295 to the 63, cut over the Sunrise, and then go up and over the hill, and over there you'll be right there, kid. Trust me on this one. You'll thank Uncle Johnny later.
Then a third one would come in like,
What's the matter with you? You're making this too confusing. Nah, listen to me. Just head straight up to Southern State, bang a right. Once you come to Leggio's Deli, go up 297. You'll be right where you need to be. Thank me later, kid.
in the meantime, the whole time I'm like, I got GPS. I can just search this, but thanks, guys. So I'm downloading all of my New York trauma onto all of you. Hope you're enjoying it. But anyway, Uncle Tony would have some questions like,
Hey, aren't we going to the third world here, man? Isn't this like a third world country, huh?
And I would say this, it's a developing nation. In fact, here's a couple of really interesting stats for you. The ECLAC recently reported that the Dominican Republic is the fastest growing economy in 2025. GDP growth at 4.6% is over Argentina, Paraguay, Costa Rica, and many other places that a lot of people from the United States think is the place to go in Latin America. But even more than that, the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, has projected that the Dominican Republic will be the second largest growing economy in the world in 2026. South Sudan is projected to be number one. Interesting. But I can tell you from my own experience, having gone there for the last 15, 16 years, as long as I've been married to my wife who's originally from there were times when there was no highways to go between like a Punta Cana area and the biggest city in Santo Domingo. Electricity, even in the most tourist-friendly areas like Punta Cana, it would go out at a resort, and that doesn't happen anymore. The airports have tremendously grown, and there are a ton of development projects happening right now. In fact, the president, Abinader, just announced a $530 million investment in ports, including $204 million in this little fishing village that I recently said would just remain that. No one's gonna invest there, come on, called Boca de Yuma. It's insane how much not only domestic investment, but foreign direct investment there is in the Dominican Republic. So hey, Uncle Tony, look, it's growing. Yes, there are third world elements, of course. There's a lot of poverty, there's a lot of things to fix. Education needs to get better. All of that is true. But the reality is, if you're somebody that is able to earn American US dollars or euros or Canadian, whatever you make in Canada, in DR, you can live a really good life. And even more than that, you can give back quite a bit by hiring, by donating, by doing a lot of things for locals.
All right, you got me on that one. I'll give you that. But I gotta pay taxes down there, kid. I mean, look, here in the U.S., make a nice buck, 120 grand that the government knows about, you know? But Uncle Sam's in my back pocket taking out about 45 grand between property taxes, income taxes, city taxes. Hey! So what I gotta do there? I gotta pay some other guy, some other taxes on top of what I pay over here?
All right, taxes. This is where it gets really interesting. You move from New York to Florida, you're gonna carve out a few different taxes. Your state income tax, your city tax, that sort of stuff. That's gonna go down. You're still gonna pay property taxes, you're still gonna pay federal income taxes, but still, it's a better tax position if you go from New York to Florida. No doubt. But let me play this out for Uncle Tony, who's making $120,000, $125,000. What would it look like if he moved permanently to the Dominican Republic instead? Here's the key. You can eliminate all of your taxes, federal, state, and property with a few moves. Let's start with income tax. This thing keeps moving. That's cool. No matter where you live in the world, if you're a United States citizen, you need to file a tax return in the US. That's what they do. That's how they got you. If you're Canadian, for instance, and you leave the country, you stop paying taxes, you stop filing returns in Canada. At least that's my understanding. Sounds a little loony. You get it? It's Canadian. Loony. But in the US, you gotta file a return. Now, if you live in another country, there is something called the FEIE. That moves when I'm doing it. It's right there. This is the Foreign Earned Income Exemption. Now, foreign earned income sounds like you earn income in a foreign place. That's what I thought it was as well. Like somewhere else is paying me. I'm making money in Dominican Republic, Costa Rica, wherever. But all it means is you are earning income and are foreign. You're living somewhere else. So you can fully earn US dollars, live abroad, and claim the FEIE. There are two tests to determine if you qualify for the FEIE, and you only need to pass one of them. The first one is called the bona fide residency test. This test requires that you are a real resident of another country for a tax year, January 1 to December 31. It's really looking at your intent and your ties to that country. So like for me, I live in DR. We rent our house out here in the States. I'm a bona fide resident of another country. And my intent, as I've said here, and we're selling this house and we're buying down there, is to remain in that country. So it's not really about how long you're physically there, it's more about the true intent. Did you set up a home? Are you tied to the community? Do you plan to stay for an indefinite period of time? If the answer to those things are yes, then you would pass the bona fide residence test. Now, if that's not the case, there's also the physical presence test. The physical presence test requires that you are out of the country for 330 days within a 12-month window. And the days obviously don't need to be consecutive. So 330 means that you could spend 35 days in the United States and still pass the physical presence test. I'm pointing because it's on my computer. I have to reference this stuff because it's all legalese stuff. One of the differences here is I said on the bona fide residence test, it's like in a tax year, January 1 to December 31. For this physical presence test, it's any 12-month period. So if in a tax year, say 2024, you could choose the month like August to August, April to April, whatever. If in that 12-month window you can show that you've been out of the country for 330 days, then you may be qualified for the FEIE. What this does now is essentially it exempts you from all federal and state taxes for up to 125, say 30-ish thousand, about 130,000 in income. So if you make up to or less than 130,000 and you pass one of these two tests, then you don't pay taxes. You don't need to pay any taxes in another country. You don't need to earn any income in another country. All you need to do is pass one of those two tests. My understanding is it's like, hey, you pay taxes in the country, in the United States, to make sure that you're funding all of the amenities that you use, roads and bridges and defense and all that stuff. The US government is essentially like, well, all right, but if you're really not here and not using those things, then we're not gonna ask you to pay taxes on those things. That's my understanding. But from an income tax perspective, the FEIE is an absolute way to save all of your income tax, not just a reduction in state income tax you'd get from New York to Florida. Now, there's two other potential exemptions you might qualify for if you earn more than $130,000-ish in the US. The first is the federal housing credit, the FHC. FHC. Pretty much if you could show housing expenses that are not a mortgage and taxes, so insurance, or if you rent, the rent, electric bill, landscaper, whatever. After about $7,000 worth of those expenses, the amount above that you can write off on your taxes. There is a cap, I don't know, I've seen 18,000, I've seen 30,000, I don't know. But there's a cap on how much you can write off total. But like the first $7,000 in expenses, that's on you, you can't write that off. But then the amount above that you can. So remember, if you're making say $200,000, then the FEIE might be able to exempt you from taxes on that first 130. And then if you can show that you've got, I don't know, 15, 20,000 worth of housing expense, not including a mortgage or taxes, then you can write off a certain amount of that as well. And then what's also interesting, if you're in that $200,000 range or whatever, is you still qualify for the standard exemption, whatever that is. I don't know, with the new big
beautiful boo.
I think it's like 30 or 40 grand for a family. I could be wrong. You need to consult professionals on all. I should just like blanket say this. I'm giving you info. I'm not an expert. You consult the right people, and I'll talk about that in just a second. But you can stack that on top, and then there's also the child tax credit that you can also stack on top of that. So you can quickly, even if you make over 130 grand, 125 grand, you can quickly see how you can whittle away at your tax burden by simply living in paradise. Now, I said there's one other, it's called the federal tax credit. This would be if you did pay taxes in another country. So if you're making 200 grand, you write off all you can, there's still an amount that's taxable, but then you also show that you started a business in DR or you're working for a hotel or whatever, and you're paying taxes here. Well, essentially you can use the foreign tax credit to make sure that whatever you paid in taxes here is credited against taxes you'd pay in the US. So if you paid $5,000 in taxes in DR and you owe $10,000 in the US, you can get that $5,000 taken off your US tax bill by using the foreign tax credit. I don't know why I do this with everything. FEIE, foreign tax credit. FHC, Uncle Tony gets me talking with my hands. Oh, and that's income tax. Now, property tax, very simple here. If you buy a property in the Dominican Republic that is Confitor approved, Confitor, I'll put it down here, it's a weird word. Then what that'll allow you to do is first waive the 3% transfer tax at sale. So if you buy a $200,000 condo, you'd pay $6,000 in transfer taxes. If it's not Confitor approved, goes away if it is Confitor approved. And you're exempted from property taxes for 15 years. But even if you're not, and we go with this $200,000 example. Confitor approved, no taxes, no property taxes, you're good to go. Not Confitor approved, you're gonna pay that 3% transfer tax, 6 grand, but then the property tax is 1% of the value above about 170,000 US. So if you have a $200,000 condo that's not Confitor, your annual tax bill is 1% of $3,000 or $300 per year. So even if you can't get all of your property taxes waived, if all you're looking for is a nice $200,000 condo or even $300,000 condo, your tax bill is very, very minimal. But again, you can eliminate it in a Confitor approved property. All right, now some of you have questions about all this tax stuff and say, Jamie, do you have like an international accountant? Like, no, I don't. In fact, I had to educate my accountant in the US on all of these things. She had no idea. In fact, she was giving me the wrong information. I had to prove her wrong. Once she learned about it, she went and took care of what I needed for her to take care of and then billed me. Shouldn't she be paying me for continuing education? What the hell? To be honest with you, the person that I've met that knows the most about all of this, tax law in DR and the US, how they interrelate, strategies, really in the weeds on it, but again, not probably perfect, but knows the most I've seen, is my lawyer. And people always ask me, oh, do you have a recommendation of a lawyer? I do. Down below, his name is Gabriel. You fill out the form for the trusted attorney. He'll reach out to you via WhatsApp. This is for real estate. This is for immigration. This is for tax, for business. He does it all. I think his main lane is real estate, but I'll tell you what, this guy has serviced our legal needs on many levels and he's been excellent. So feel free to reach out to him. And as far as finding a property, there's another link down there if you need a realtor. I've got 5 or 6 that I refer to around the country that I think are good. Feel free to use that as well. And if you decide to work with any of these people, and please do your own due diligence, just know they're likely to pay me something in exchange for that referral. So do your own due diligence. Make sure you're comfortable with anyone, no matter if I refer them or not, before you work with them. So there you go. You go from 125,000 earned, and the average New Yorker earning that pays about 45,000 in property and income taxes. Gonzo, if you move down to the DR. Come on, Uncle Tony.
All right, kid. All right, so it's the developing country down there, and I can get out of my tax burden. I understand all this. But what about the safety? I'm gonna get macheted up by some local down there. Oh!
Look, if you've watched me for a while, you're gonna know what I'm gonna say to Uncle Tony. Look at mass shootings, school shootings. Absolutely, those happen in the US, they don't happen in DR. Random violence in a country like the Dominican Republic, it just doesn't happen. Almost every violent act in that regard is domestic. That doesn't make it right, but that's just the reality. And like the US, if you stay out of the bad areas, you're less likely to be involved with any sort of threat of physical injury or violence. In fact, the Peace Index rating came out recently and ranked the Dominican Republic, I think like 79th in the world. For context, the US is like 120th. That doesn't mean that it's like, oh my God, you can just go outside and throw jewelry at people and you'll be perfectly safe, just like it wouldn't in the US. But what it is saying is that in general, citizens in the country feel a sense of peace, more so than they do in the United States. Some of that is driven by the fact that the US has a robust military, they have a lot of enemies. DR doesn't. The other thing you can look at, and I've reported on this, is violent crime rate by city. If you took Santo Domingo, the biggest city in the Dominican Republic, and by far the highest crime rate of any city in the country, and stacked it up against the United States cities and where they rank, there are about 15 or 20 cities, including Memphis, New Orleans, Las Vegas, that rank way higher in violent crime rate than Santo Domingo does. I said this in a newsletter recently, and I'm gonna say it here because this is where all the gabbers come out like,
You think it's so safe? Why don't you tell the real story?
and I say,
Hey, get out of here.
the Dominican Republic may not be paradise, but it's my paradise. We feel extremely safe there. We also recognize how to stay safe. But if you want to know where safety is an issue, in my opinion, in DR, it's on the roads. Driving down there, look, we joke about it like, Dominicans are crazy drivers, but it is at times extremely tragic. And my family has been in accidents there, and we've had to deal with the outcome of that. What I would say to anybody that's moving and driving being an issue, there's a few different options. If you can afford a driver, which isn't as much as you might think, it sounds foo-foo, but it's not that much, then get a driver. If you can live in areas that are fairly walkable, then do that. Uber is available, so you don't need to drive. It doesn't make you any less safe, but in the event of an accident, you're not the target of the police investigation. But also, if you are somebody that says, I get it, but I want to drive, get great insurance, make sure you have the right coverages on that insurance. We learned very quickly that our insurance policy, auto insurance policy, which we pay, I think, $1,500 or $1,600 US a year for, and people freak out like,
Are you crazy? In the Dominican Republic, you pay that much?
hell yeah. It's like anything, you get what you pay for. Our insurance company was like that, resolving claims against us, taking care of the damage to our car like same day. I worked in the insurance claims industry for a company called Progressive where we measured inspection and resolution timeliness. Our goal was to get out to see a car within 9 hours after the impact happened. And oftentimes we would see it as it happened. If we saw an accident, we pull over, we'd have to be there on scene to handle that accident for them. What I saw in DR was like, did Progressive set up operations down here? But again, we paid for that service. We paid for that speed. I don't know if a base policy would provide you the same type of responsiveness that this policy did. So it's like, look, protect yourself if you want on the front end, Uber, hire a driver, live in a walkable area, and or if you are gonna drive, protect yourself. I don't wanna make it like it's like, oh my God, driving. People drive back and forth every day without getting an accident. I mean, it happens, but the motos on the road, the way some people don't follow all of the traffic signs, especially being back here in the US right now, I can feel the difference, the stress level, the shoulders are down as I'm driving here versus when I'm driving in the Dominican Republic. And I'm very comfortable driving in DR. Done it for 3 years. I've driven all around the country. But Uncle Tony, safety? Just be safe on the roads and stay out of the bad neighborhoods, Uncle Tony. What are you doing? Oh yeah, that was me. Anyway, let's see what other questions Uncle Tony has.
All right, he's telling me how safe it is there. All right, maybe not. But what about these hurricanes, huh? I mean, getting blown can be a good thing, but not like that. You know what I'm saying over here?
I don't know if my uncles would say that, but that's freaking funny. Again, guys, you're watching like stream of consciousness live on camera right now. And the camera that moves. It moves. It zooms. It zags. Or zigs. Whatever. All right, Uncle Tony, here's the deal with hurricanes. Yes! That's a risk. And yes, we've lived through one and a tropical storm even in our 3+ years that we've lived there. And they could have been way worse. And there have been way worse hurricanes in the past. But we're comparing Florida here, right? In the last 100 years, the state of Florida has had over 114 named storms make landfall in Florida. It's a much bigger place, obviously, so it should have more. But in that same time frame, most people don't realize this, the Dominican Republic has had 40 named storms have impacted the island or the country. Look, big ones will hit. It's inevitable. There's gonna be a big storm that sets DR back that's gonna make an impact, no doubt about it. Hopefully it's not for a long time. Hopefully it's never. But typically these storms come up, they go up into the middle of the Atlantic, or unfortunately for Puerto Rico, it acts as a land barrier to the Dominican Republic. It's more in the eye of it. Plus what are they called? The Leeward Islands, I think they're called, like this string of islands like Guadalupe and so on. They sort of bear the brunt before it hits the Dominican. Again, not saying that won't be an issue in the future. There will be large storms that come through. We missed Beryl in 2024, went right below us in July of 2024 and nailed Jamaica. A friend of mine there documented the whole thing, and thankfully they recovered fairly quickly. But again, Florida is more susceptible to hurricanes. And the other part is that where you would live or I live, our houses are fully concrete. Sides, top, middle, the whole thing. So hurricanes are gonna make their mark. They're gonna break glass, they're gonna take down power lines, it's gonna cause issues in the country. But with a little bit of preparation and the sturdiness of the homes, versus in Florida, which for God knows what reason, other than cost, I guess, they build houses that are half wood or have wood roofs on concrete bottoms. I don't get it.
I don't get it, Uncle Tony.
Look, hurricanes are gonna do what they do no matter where you are. And if you're unfortunate to be a lower income person living in the Dominican Republic in a shanty house, yeah, that's gonna be a problem. And I feel terrible for those folks, and we do all we can in the recovery to help them financially. But to be honest with you, our escape plan, if we were to stay in country, would simply be to drive up to Santiago. I know, Santiago people, you've been watching me, you're saying, yeah, I thought you hated Santiago. I never said that. All I said was it didn't feel like a place I would enjoy living, that's all. But it's a beautiful city, come on. And yes, I would use it as my hurricane buffer if we needed it, if we needed to get out of Dodge. It feels like the right spot for it. So Uncle Tony, hurricanes, of course, are a risk. They are in Florida, even more so based on just the number of storms. About 3 times as many have hit the state. And now they're coming from different, do you see the one that came like from Texas into Florida? I've never seen that before, it's crazy. What else you got for me, Uncle Tony? I'm knocking these out of the park for you.
All right. I want to know about how much I got to spend to live in this place. Like, is it true? Like $15, I could live like a king?
Now this, Uncle Tony, is one of the biggest myths that I've been railing against for the last 3 years, because I'll be honest, that's what I thought when I moved there, when I chose the Punta Cana area. I thought, oh, it's gonna be way less expensive to live there than it was in Michigan. I mean, it's a third world country. Wrong. You can absolutely live on very little if you want to, but you're going to give up a lot to do that. You're not gonna have stable electric. You're probably gonna be in neighborhoods where you need bars on the window. The amenities available to you will be less. It's just true. You can live for very cheap if that's your thing. If you are a minimalist, which I know you're not, Uncle Tony, nor are most of you New Yorkers out there. You wanna live a parallel life. You wanna live like, I don't wanna have to worry about my power going out every 5 minutes. I don't wanna have to think about putting gates over my doors. So here's the truth about the cost of living there. It is less expensive than the United States, but it ain't cheap. Let's just add this up real quick. Let's say you buy a place cash.
Cash, Uncle Tony, 200 grand, ba-boom, oh.
And you buy a car, cash. You don't have a car payment, you don't have a mortgage. Let me show you how quickly $1,000 gets spent in a month, even though those two things are paid off. You're gonna have an HOA, that's $200 a month, let's say. You gotta pay for gas in your car, another $200 a month. You're gonna have auto insurance, that's $100 a month, because you're gonna be smart and get good insurance. You're gonna have an electric bill, I'll call it $200 a month. This was the one expense we were blown away by. We had no idea it was gonna be that much in Punta Cana. People around the other parts of the country say, oh, I pay way less, agreed, but we never, ever lose power in Punta Cana. Never have an issue with it. If that's important to you, you're gonna pay for it. So we'll call that $200. Your health insurance, because you're gonna get a good plan, is $100 a month. And then your Wi-Fi, your cell phone, the gas you need for the house, and those little things are another $200 a month. That is $1,000. We haven't talked about food. We haven't talked about housekeeping. We haven't talked about entertainment. We haven't talked about travel and actually going to do things. We haven't talked about maintenance, things that pop up, issues. Oh crap, my microwave broke. I have to buy a new one. Those things. So you can live on little. But even the people who are living on that $1,000, $1,500 a month, they sacrifice things. They may not have a car. They use public transit, and that's okay. They don't travel very much. And they're not accounting for pop-up expenses. When you hear $1,500 a month, that's just like fixed budgetary expenses. That's not all of the things that happen. You feel like splurging on dinner one night. You feel like going somewhere or whatever, or something like the microwave example. Those things are not factored into that $1,500. By the way, in this, I didn't even put like if you want to go to a gym, that's an expense. There's a lot of different expenses in here. Very quickly, you're gonna spend $1,000 a month, even with a paid off car, even with a paid off house. But Uncle Tony, what you get for the money is way greater. Your dollar goes further there, especially further than New York City and especially further than Florida. You know what it is for insurance right now? Property insurance in Florida, let alone property taxes?
Come on, Uncle T.
All right, I think I convinced Uncle Tony, but you guys have to let me know down below. Does Uncle Tony convinced to move to DR? Are New Yorkers convinced that if they're gonna flee because of Mamdani or whatever reason, Florida should be just skipped over and sent right down to the Caribbean? Drop it down below in the comments, let me know. But I still have the 3 keys that I need to share with you to living in the Dominican Republic. The first key is the biggest challenge living there, and I've already talked about it. I'm gonna go a little further. That is driving. You can navigate it just fine. The moment you have a driving issue, it gets really complicated, scary, maybe even traumatic. And on top of that, when you get pulled over, you're likely to be shaken down for some money. It's become almost like a numbness for me when that happens now because I've had it happen so much, but it's scary. When a cop is there telling you like, pay me money and I'll let you go, it's a scary thing. And it definitely doesn't feel very good. You feel violated, especially being American, where you're not used to that on a daily basis. So the biggest challenge, just so you know, is going to be driving culture in the Dominican Republic, no matter where you are. Punta Cana is the tamest of it. Santo Domingo is the worst traffic. The craziest place I've ever driven, to be honest with you, Higüey. That's just like the Wild West, or whatever you would call that in the Dominican. It's loco. That's all I know. So number one biggest challenge, driving. The biggest benefit to living in DR, I gotta be honest here, and some people may not like this, but the biggest benefit, it's the housekeeper. The ability to afford full-time in-home help with laundry, with cleaning, with cooking, it's just insanely good. I advocate to make sure that you really take care of the people that do this for you, pay them well, give them other benefits, like do right by them. It's not a huge expense, especially if you're spending in US dollars. You don't want to gouge and like reset the market, but you also don't want to be that person who's trying to get it for the littlest amount possible. And it kills me when I hear somebody going like, well, they should really be making 200, they want 250 in a month. It's like, just pay them the 250. I mean, come on. But I gotta be honest, we moved for the adventure. We stayed in large part for the housekeeping. I know it sounds like, oh, it's so nice, but the ability for my wife and I to communicate better, the ability for us to not have to worry about hours a day worth of house chores and laundry and putting clothes away and all of that, it is a better life. And if we can help somebody fund their lifestyle and help her, which we do with her kid, with health insurance, with transportation, all of that, awesome. But the third key is one that I don't know how else to drive this home, but it's the best advice I can give of what I've learned in my 3 years in the Dominican Republic. And this is it. You ready for it? This is the key. The key. And I'll tell a little story to reveal this for you, to what this best advice is, the key to living in Dominican Republic. I alluded earlier to an accident, an auto accident. We tested the system, and that's true. After that accident, because of what happened in it, we had to go to the police station, file a police report. At the police station, they told us that the policy is, because there were multiple people involved, that they need to ensure that we don't leave the country while they're investigating. So we had to either turn in our passport, and if we didn't do that, we're spending the night at the police station. Now, we don't travel in country with our passports for that reason. I never want to surrender my passport. Some people may disagree and want to travel with it for that exact instance. But the ability to make one call to a lawyer, and for that lawyer to within 10 minutes have somebody we don't know at that police station ensuring that we're going home that night, holy cow. That's just the most recent example of this, of the point I'm gonna give you the title of here in just a second. But if you're looking at when you need something, or maybe even less traumatic, when you're gonna start a business. A lot of people ask me like, what kind of business opportunity do you think it is down there? And I always tell them that's not the right question when you're not here, when you're not there in the Dominican Republic. Don't ask that question until you're in the Dominican Republic. Because then once you're there, you're gonna know the key stakeholders, the people of influence, all of the things that you need to understand and get into once you're in country. DR is like that. It's a very much an in-person culture. So the third piece of advice, and the most important to me, is in the Dominican Republic, if you're gonna live there, it is extremely important who you know. Network, go to different things, meet people, understand the players in that particular market, build real, authentic relationships with everybody, and you'll get there. It's a small country. People are really interconnected. But your ability to be plugged in to the local community and know the people you need to know, I think is an essential part of living in DR. And as a guy who loves networking, I kind of like that. I like the idea that it's not about what you know, it's about who you know. I don't know. It feels good to me.
So New Yorkers, for you, for Uncle Tony, for Eddie's out there.
If you're gonna leave the city and Florida's on your list, check out DR. Go a little further south and see if any of this stuff resonates with you, whether or not that's the place that you should check out and live just to have a better life. The next thing you should do is research how to actually look at property and do due diligence and all of that stuff. Definitely do that. Just click here and you'll see a video I did with everything I've learned about due diligence to this point. I hope it helps all of you. See you on the next one.